Let's talk about an important comparison: Vex versus Vops. If you're new to Houdini, or coding in general, you've likely heard of Vops, which are Houdini's visual programming nodes. These nodes serve as a visual translation of Vex. They allow you to build procedural logic and effects without manually writing code. But how do Vops compare to writing Vex directly? Let's break it down. VOPs, or Vex operators, are essentially a visual interface for Vex. Every node within the VOP context in Houdini represents a single function or operation, and when you connect these nodes, you're essentially building Vex code under the hood. This means you get the same power and efficiency of Vex without needing to write any code manually. They are beginner-friendly and mostly error-free. This makes Vops particularly useful for beginners. The logic remains the same as with Vex, but you avoid common coding challenges like syntax errors or improper indentation. Vops let you focus on the concepts and workflows, making it easier to understand how procedural logic works before diving into raw Vex coding. Another important point is that VOP nodes serve as the gateway to the Vex Builder context. The Vex Builder is where Houdini processes Vex-based visual logic, and VOP nodes make it more accessible for users who prefer a visual programming approach. Several experienced Houdini technicians, proficient with the software, still primarily utilize Vops instead of writing Vex code. Like Wrangles, VOP nodes are also context-dependent. You'll encounter different types of Vops depending on where you're working. At the SOPs level, you can use Vops for operations like manipulating points, primitives, vertices, detail attributes, or even volumes. At the DOPS level, there are geometry Vops and pop Vops for working with simulations and particles. This flexibility allows Vops to integrate seamlessly into Houdini's procedural workflows, no matter the context. Now that we understand what Vex and Vops are, let's take a closer look at how they compare, especially in terms of their strengths and weaknesses. Both have their place in Houdini workflows, but their use depends on the specific needs of your project and your level of expertise. Let's start with what makes Vex stand out: performance. Vex is highly optimized and multi-threaded, offering unparalleled speed and efficiency for large datasets. Flexibility. You have full control to write custom logic and handle unique scenarios that might not be possible with Vops. Compact. A single Wrangle node with a few lines of Vex code can often replace an entire network of Vops. Scalability. Vex makes it easier to manage and expand your projects, especially as they grow more complex. But Vex has also some weaknesses. Requires programming knowledge. Vex demands a level of coding proficiency, which can be intimidating for beginners. Harder debugging. When something goes wrong, pinpointing the issue in lines of code can be challenging. Less visual. Without a graphical representation, understanding and communicating Vex logic can be harder, especially for team collaborations. Now let's look at Vops. One main advantage over Vex is their user-friendliness. Vops are beginner-friendly and accessible, making them an excellent choice for those starting out with Houdini. Advantages in visual debugging. The node-based approach allows for intuitive debugging. You can visually trace the flow and find issues. Almost as fast as Vex, Vops generate Vex code under the hood, so the performance difference is often negligible for many tasks. Until now, Vops have proven to be a more than valid alternative to Vex. However, you should be aware of some limitations. Larger Vop setups can become visually overwhelming and harder to manage, making it challenging to work with cluttered networks. While Vops offer many tools, their customization is limited, and certain advanced features still require diving into raw Vex. Additionally, Vops, though generally fast, can introduce minor performance overhead compared to directly written Vex, especially in large-scale or highly complex workflows. That brings us to the big question: when should you choose Vops over Vex, and vice versa? Use Vex when you need precision, performance, and the ability to tackle complex tasks. It's the go-to tool for advanced users who require full control and efficiency in their workflows. On the other hand, use Vops for accessibility, experimentation, and visual debugging. They're perfect for testing ideas quickly or when you need a more user-friendly approach to building procedural logic, for example, when implementing noise functions. Over time, as you gain experience, you'll naturally discover whether you're more of a Vex person, a Vops person, or perhaps a mix of both. Each has its strengths, and understanding when to use one over the other is an essential part of mastering Houdini.